And Walt Disney Imagineering are pleased to present the making of Star Tours. The adventures continue.
Well, Star Tours really began when George Lucas came to Walt Disney Imagineering and happened to be wandering through the halls saying, "What's going on? What are you working on?" And at the time, we were starting work on a new flight simulator attraction and how we might integrate that into Tomorrowland at the park. And George said, "Gee, this would be terrific. I'd love to work on this." And as a result of that, the next time George came down to visit, we had up on a storyboard a number of different story ideas of how we could integrate the Star Wars characters and mythologies with this flight simulator. And 2 years later, Star Tours was born.
Please welcome Imagineer Tom Fitzgerald.
Look like the person in that clip, but you know, it's been a few years between the original Star Tours show and now, and that's what happens when the adventures continue. So how many of you came last year when we talked about the original Star Tours show? Some of you? Great. How many of you have been on the new Star Tours ride? How many of you have been on it more than once? 154? Really? That's more than I've done. Anyway, we're going to take you behind the scenes today and show you how the adventures did continue. Of course, we all know that Star Tours really began right here at Disneyland. Even though it's traveled around the world, this is where it started. And this is opening day. And this is a very young George Lucas and a very young Michael Eisner at the opening of the attraction. But today we're going to go show you how we went from that early days, and we decided to shave that day, to this one, which is the adventures continue, how we made the journey. Now, a lot of you I know for years have been saying, when are you going to update Star Tours? When are you going to update Star Tours? Well, the reality is, we've been working on it for a long time. In fact, the new show really got its start in 1998. I got a call from Lucasfilm, and my buddy up there said, George is deep at work on episode 1, and he has the perfect sequence to make the new Star Tours show based on. So come on up. So a couple of us Imagineers traveled up to Skywalker Ranch and met with George Lucas, and he showed us one sequence from the movie, which was the pod race. And he said, this will be perfect. And in fact, we did think it was a great idea. And we came up with a storyline that was all about the fact that Star Tours was going to be taking guests to the Boonta Eve Classic, and we were going to be sightseeing, and of course something always goes horribly wrong in this attraction, and we were going to get sucked up into a pod race. And so we actually boarded out the whole show. We had the pre-show, here's the Star Speeder getting ready to take us to the Boonta Eve Classic, and the droids in the droid room were going to be building engines for the Boonta Eve Classic. Rex was still there because George said, you know, the Classic goes on and every year, so our time period would stay where it was. So Rex was still there, which was great. Interestingly enough, even back then, in 1998, we had decided that we were going to make the new show in 3D. And these were an early sketch by Luke Mayrank, who did all the storyboards for this version of the show, of how our glasses were going to look like young Anakin's glasses. Because every time we do a 3D show, we have to come up with another phrase for what you're putting on, because we never want to say 3D glasses. So we were already in 3D, and we started to have fun with it. I mean, this time we decided, you know, we actually should not make the wrong turn. Wouldn't it be great for a guest if we actually went straight down the low part? I've always wondered what was supposed to happen when Rex made that wrong turn. But in this version, and I'm only showing you a couple of boards because we got a lot of ground to cover. In this version, we popped out into space. We inadvertently, a tractor beam brought us down, pit droids got us ready, attached some engines on us, and off we went, becoming part of the race. Some things like Sebulba remained in the show, the final show. We had this idea for a drill bit that he was going to throw at our windshield, and we loved the idea of the fact of having the windshield break, which we thought would be very cool since we were staying on a planet. We didn't have any problem with atmosphere. That was kind of a cool idea. And of course, we were going to win. We always win. And then We waited. And the thing was, because George only showed us that little clip of the film, and like all of you, we had to wait for opening day of the movie to find out what else was in the story. There was that sort of nagging thing in the back of our minds saying, well, what's going to be in episode 2? And then when episode 2 came out, again, because we didn't have any entree into where George was going with it, naturally we said, well, what's going to be in episode 3? And so we waited, and then when the trilogy was over, I had the tough decision of sitting down and saying, okay, we're going to get one shot at this. What sequence do we pick? And it was too tough for a number of reasons, but mostly because of you guys, our fans, realizing that the way that you visit the park and the attractions has changed so dramatically from when we did the original show, that no matter how good an episode we created, pretty soon you'd say, I've seen it, I've done it a number of times. And so because of our fans, our annual pass holders, that we've got to have a different idea for this. How do we keep this attraction fresh so that you can come back again and again and again? And the answer really lay in the fact that technology had progressed to the point where it's like, well, wait a minute, why does it just have to be one adventure? It's sort of like that Imagineering joke. How many Imagineers does it take to change a light bulb? Why does it have to be a light bulb? So we said, well, you know, with digital technology, we can take that old 70mm film loop cabinet off the back, we can go digital in 3D, and then we can have more stories to tell. So the next thing was to go to Australia, where George was filming episode 3, and I said, George, here's the idea. It's kind of like a slot machine, a storytelling slot machine. We'll have a couple of openings, we'll have a couple of act ones, we'll have a couple of finales, and every time you get on board, it's like the handle gets pulled, and whatever comes up is a show. And George said, great, I love it. Okay. Got on a plane, came back, it was a very short meeting, but important, you know, I didn't get any sightseeing in. And then this is a memo that came back from Lucasfilm that was sort of saying, okay, this is what we heard you say, and these are some of the destinations we think we'll go to. And out of that came what we called our first episode matrix. And this is where the show began. It's a little different from what we wound up with. It was a little overwhelming for Island and others when they said, you're going how many places? How many things? But you can see that the basis of the idea that got people ultimately excited about the attraction was this, that said, that many column 1, that many column 2, that many column 3 gives you that many possibilities. And everybody got excited about that, saying, wow, that would really make it totally repeatable. And even if you had seen all those pieces, to come back again and again and say, I wonder what combination we're going to get. That was the major thing that got us to our green light. So here we are, moving through. Now, it's not like this is the only thing we're doing. We're working on a lot of other shows and things, so this is sort of like a, you know, I want to say a hobby in one sense. They keep pushing, saying, we've got to do it, we've got to do it, we've got to do it, we've got to do it. And by December 2005, we said, this is what we think we can accomplish. And if you look at this, it's pretty close to what we have in there now. A little bit of location changes in there, but basically the notion of 2 launches, and 3 what we call detours, and 3 finales, and then a column on the right. Moving forward, January 2007. We go up to meet with George Lucas, and we're taking the images you see here, and we're talking through, George, this is what we think the show's going to be. We're going to have 2 openings. There's going to be a Darth Vader opening, and there's going to be a Stormtrooper opening, and those are the 2 openings. And the pod race we still think is a great idea, so let's go to Tatooine. Let's go to Hoth. We'd love to go to Hoth for all the Empire fans. Let's go to Kashyyyk. Kashyyyk, interestingly enough, was a suggestion of John Lasseter. Came in and we wanted to do a speeder bike, and he said, why don't we go to Kashyyyk, the Wookiee planet? So, let the Wookiee win. Coruscant. Naboo, we hadn't gone underwater at this point. We sort of felt like underwater might be too difficult to achieve, although we thought falling off a waterfall would be fun. But that changed a little bit. And of course, you've got to have a Death Star. And so the Death Star was in there as well. And this we took to George, and we called it our story matrix 3.5. And we called it, oh look, and here suddenly we've added some transmissions. We picked 3.5 in our discussions with George because we wanted to take advantage of, as you saw there, the most iconic Star Wars places and faces. And being between the two sets of trilogies gave us, roughly, gave us the most freedom to have as many wonderful places and characters. Now I know a few fans are saying, wait a minute, Mr. Fitzgerald, Hoth, no, this doesn't fit there. But George said, it's Disneyland. How can you not do Hoth? So it's in. So we said we're loosely there in the time frame. But he was like, come on, you're not going to do Hoth because you're being so literal. I said, the films are one thing, books are one thing. So every medium is unique, and Disneyland, is totally unique, and you've got to go for the greatest hits. So this is what we took in. Marion McLean is our visual effects producer, media producer of the show, wanted to bring the book, because in this very high-tech world, we actually brought this as a book, like a gift. Mr. Lucas. And it flipped out. You could flip all the layers out, and it was kind of tricked out. It was very fun. But this is pretty much what you see, except for the fact that we have